drag racing fan right here between the slicks, where we talk about it all in the world of drag racing and a lot in the world of drag racing. We have to talk about a little bit of everything, far as what events have been completed, what events are coming up, and even our guest. I think our guest tonight really represents very well the nature of what we like to be talking about here on Between the Slicks. Chad Green, we're going to have him later on tonight, the Nitro Funny Car driver, but he's not just a Nitro Funny Car driver, long-time Nitrous Pro Mod racer who has recently been in the cockpit of a nitro burning funny car. So I am looking forward to talking to him about the time in the Pro Mod. I have talked with him before. He says he's not done with that, just didn't take it out this year. Hey, maybe he'll get that invitation to that race that was announced earlier this week. We'll talk about that as well later on in the show. But we are going to be talking with Chad Green Motorsports, Bondcoat, and all his other partners. Look forward to talking with him right here on Between the Slicks. Been meaning to have him on the show for a while now, and even made a remark to him, hey, man, you got time? Come on next Thursday. And had another guest lined up, and it didn't work out, but we got him on tonight, and thankful that he is able to come on. It was today, and I'm like, man, I still haven't been able to find a guest or lock down a guest. And I think we've got a great lineup of guests down the road in the show Between the Slicks right here on the Monday Morning Racer platform, and also streaming to the Competition Plus Facebook page. Thank you all for watching along. Bobby Cottrell, we're going to have him more than likely next Thursday. I have texted with Madison Payne, you know, the gal who beat Tony Stewart there at Las Vegas in Top Alcohol Dragster. Very well may be having her on the show. And we're going to talk a little bit of news about Murph McKinney. May very well be having him on the show in the near future as well. And by the way, Southeast Gassers Association, they'll be wrapping up their season. So certainly we're going to be having more Southeast Gassers Association drivers, competitors, maybe even a backup girl or two right here chatting on Between the Slicks. Thank you all for watching Drag Racing Central. Thank you for watching, man. He says MMR, appreciate it. And Michael chimes in, hey guys, remember Keystone? You killed it. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael, very much. And Keystone, I think they've got events coming up here soon. Stay on the outlook for what is now a WDRA track. So, again, folks, we're going to have Chad Green in about, 26 minutes. We'll have him at the 8:30 Eastern time mark. We'll chat with him, and I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and dive into the burn down segment of the show. A little opinion piece, some good and some bad concerning the NHRA. Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. All right, the world of drag racing got some great news, especially for the NHRA, that Pomona Dragway, its life, its drag racing time is extended. It is much longer than many were thinking. We're going to talk in particular about that, and what a great partnership beginning for the finals, not this weekend, but the weekend after the one that we have ahead of us. You have got the NHRA finals. They're going to be title sponsored by In-N-Out Burger. So you've got a Southern California company in In-N-Out sponsoring a Southern California rooted company, if you will. You know, the NHRA Museum is there on the grounds of the Fairplex. Pomona, the oldest continuous operating drag strip in the world, in an NHRA drag strip. These two brands coming together It is simply just perfect. And it's not just the In-N-Out Burger finals, but it's also the In-N-Out Burger Pomona drag strip. They take over the naming rights of the drag strip, and we now will have the In-N-Out Burger Pomona drag strip. It's going to be interesting to see if that starts this actual race coming up. I didn't see that quite clarified in any articles I read, or if it just starts next year. Either way, they are going to have this pairing of two brands that have been together in so many different ways, on so many different cars, with so many different personalities. I think of Dale Poldy and the Over the Hill Gang and Mark Oswald and that funny car, Melanie Troxel. And we've seen them elsewhere within the sport of drag racing. Just last year with the abbreviated banquet that the NHRA had, they had the In-N-Out trucks and trailers catering to the people of the NHRA that were hanging out for the banquet and enjoying themselves after the 2021 finals wrapped up. So these two brands, they just absolutely make good sense. They do. They do. So you have a pairing of brands coming together, and it extends the life of Pomona as well. Before we talk on that in particular, one other thing I want to mention is with In-N-Out, this great hamburger chain, one of the top burgers in the nation, I think, at least for fast food. It is not just the naming rights, and it's not just sponsoring the drag race. So next year apparently is their 75th anniversary. Great to hear that any company is having 75 years of business. They're going to be celebrating their 75th anniversary, and they're going to do it in a certain Southern California way. They're going to have on October 23rd, you can find this article on the Monday Morning Racer Facebook page from Road and Track, as I shared it from them, that on October 23rd, I believe that's the date, next year, they will be celebrating their 75th anniversary as a company at the drag strip with drag racing and a car show. You cannot get more Southern California than Pomona, California, drag racing, car show, and In-N-Out Burger. That is going to be a fun time. That is going to be a heck of a happy birthday, happy anniversary party for In-N-Out and what they're doing. So In-N-Out very well may have plans to do more than just be the title sponsor of a race and be the naming rights partner to a facility. They might have more plans with the NHRA and Pomona than what has already been released. And this information coming earlier in the week from SEMA that is ongoing there in Las Vegas. So as we continue with this, there is somewhat of a dark side to this, or a beware. So, Sean, doesn't the owner do some drag racing herself? Yes, and her dad also drag races. His family has been heavily involved in drag racing for many, many years. And the Road and Track article dives a little bit into that history. So, again, it's just fitting that this family is, and this business is going to celebrate in the way that they are. It was reported earlier this year, and here on Between the Slicks, I don't mind by name calling them out, motorbiscuit.com. And in particular, when they report on drag racing, I believe you don't need to read what they put out. And I believe that you do not need to pay them any attention, at least with what they report concerning drag racing. They report on many other matters, such as the automotive world in general, new cars, classics, other avenues within car culture. But Motor Biscuit, when they report on drag racing, they miserably fail, and they do not have their facts straight. It was announced earlier It was announced, well, not earlier in the year, about midways in the year. Actually, it was announced right before the U.S. Nationals, just about, because I recall being at Cruise Petragon's open house along with American Hot Rod Entertainment, and we discussed this, that it was announced, hey, there's going to be a change in possibly the development around the Fairplex and what LA County and Pomona and other joining municipalities are thinking and what they might want to have done. And that was announced. There was images released, and from that there was this article produced by motorbiscuit.com of new development possibly coming, spells the doom of drag racing at Pomona. Well, that was a knee-jerk reaction to information that was unveiled. Will Lester of Will Lester Photography, he actually was at some of the meetings and snapped a photo of the plans, and you can actually see etched out the place for the drag strip. And some of the redevelopment ideas would actually even be beneficial to the drag strip. But it was announced along with In-N-Out being the title sponsor for the finals, along with In-N-Out Burger being the partner for the naming rights of the facility of the drag strip there at the Fairplex, that sanctions are continued to the year 2033. It's a leased scenario from the Fairplex, and the NHRA has worked out that deal once again, another 10 years, roughly 11 if you want to count still remaining this year, for drag racing to continue at the Fairplex. You've got to be careful what you do read on the internet. You can believe everything you read on the internet, right? No, you cannot. So I have called out MotorBiscuit.com on a couple of occasions here on the show and through Monday Morning Racer platforms. You got to be careful what you read. And I really think we have a fan base right now, to some extent, that when there is something negative, they are willing to run with it. Just us as human beings, man, we love the gossip. We love that something that's negative. What happened? What bad happened? We want to rubberneck at the wreck on the highway. We got to see the train wreck. And they reported a train wreck when in fact there's being more tracks apparently added, and the train is rolling on down the tracks just fine, if not even picking up some speed. So things in the world of NHRA, overall, I feel that they're quite positive. Now, that being said, let me take the time for some of the negative, the bad concerning the NHRA. CompetitionPlus.com, Bobby Bennett did a good job, reached out to Terry Haddock. There was this incident. Terry Haddock, last qualifying pass, needs to get in the show. He's out of the show. He's got to bump in. And there was a body mount latch that fell off. One of the latches that latches the body, it came out after they tried to put the body back down. Well, couldn't get it fixed. The starter, as you can see right here, hey, you've got a single pass. There was thumbs up given that he was good to go. Terry sends it and actually posted a time quick enough to bump out Jeff Arend and the Russo family fuel funny car. Love the Russos, by the way. But Terry posted a time quick enough to bump them out. But later, Terry is informed that that pass was disqualified due to a technical infraction. What was that technical infraction? It had to do with the safety matters of not having both latches in operation, is the way in which I will word it. This is concerning because it's not the first time that this has happened. And in fact, it actually happened at Las Vegas the last time it happened. And that time it was Steve Densham in which it happened to. So Gary Densham was certainly not pleased at all about that. But you have safety issues. Those safety issues are known. A car is sent, and then the time or the run is disallowed. This is one of those areas where it's like, come on, NHRA, Stop acting like NASCAR. There's other areas where you do need to act like NASCAR, but this is not an area where you need to act like NASCAR. NASCAR so often is inconsistent with their rules. I'm a NASCAR fan, but one of the things that irks me about NASCAR is their inconsistency with their rules. Go back to the day and time of the don't pass below the yellow line, and which is still around, and the issues that they would have there making those judgment calls, or even here recently. You have Bubba Wallace suspended, and I'm thinking to myself, well, the last time we had this egregious type of act where someone wrecked someone intentionally, he was suspended for 2 races and fined, and it effectively almost ended his career. Matt Kenseth is who I'm talking about. But you have these inconsistencies. It just doesn't look good. You've got the NHRA having great races and great crowds and great attendance, and you've got a good championship battle in most of the categories going right down to the wire to Pomona. And then you want to throw, as in the old saying goes, the fly in the ointment and give people fodder to feast upon that is simply things that could have been handled in a much better way. How could it have been handled differently? Well, could have just shut Terry off and said, hey, you can't make this pass. This is a safety issue. You're not going to, and the way the NHRA is, he probably would not have been able to run. That would have sucked for Terry, but it would have been more consistent with the rule. Shut him off, roll him back. You don't make the show. Or he could have made the show and they could have talked to the starter. They could have backed their starter up, but yet also met in the middle and said, Terry, look, you should not have made that pass. Our starter was misinformed. He let you go. That should not have happened. But that's on us. You posted a quick enough time. You spent the money. You're going to be in the show. We are going to move on from this. And you know what? Probably nobody would have known about it except the people in the pits. But how they handled it, it is certainly out now. It's like 3 steps forward and a step back. It just doesn't look good. And those are moment matters. It happened in the moment. But yet there is enough time after the moment to say, how do we handle this the best way? And I understand rules are rules. But you got people calling shots, and you got people out there that I think are understanding, will have a listening ear, and let's work through the situation. The NHRA overall doing a great job, but if they could eliminate these little snafus, I don't think many people would have much to say except for the erroneous statement of the NHRA is dead, which is absolutely false. Very quickly, let me look in the comment section. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. The question is, with Auto Club leaving, does that mean Robert Hight loses Auto Club as well? Well, those are 2 different contracts. Those are 2 different situations. Now, their marketing ploy and plan may have changed overall, but if they're making a shift where they're not sponsoring in motorsports overall, then I think we'd also expect them to pull out in other areas. Remember, they sponsor occasionally Joey Logano as well. And yeah, I think you'd see that go away. So is it a possibility that they're moving from motorsports overall? Yes. And I think that is what they would be doing. It wouldn't just be a switch from like one team or another. But naming rights is also different than being on a car and having a representative person associated with that ride. Okay? So I think there may very well be value in having the person, Robert Hight, who makes appearances and does more for Auto Club than I think people realize when they travel the nation than naming rights to a brick and mortar place that just sits there, except for 2 times a year when people are there. I think Robert is fine. That's all I'm saying. Tim, hey, good to have you watching along, man. Thank you for chiming in. We're going to take a quick little break here, some drag news, get to that, roll through it really quickly, and in about 9 minutes, we're going to have Mr. Chad Green on. He's back there in the green room waiting patiently and looking forward to chatting with him.
The drag racing life and the RV life seem to go hand in hand like nitromethane and superchargers. And when you are traveling through the Lone Star State and you're needing work done on your RV, well, DFW RV Center is your star to contact.
In drag news this weekend, where will Monday Morning Racer be? Well, I am going to be checking out, once again, my friends with the Southeast Gasser Association for their final event for 2022. It's the Southeast Gassers Finals at Shadyside Dragway, November 4th and 5th. That is in Shelby, North Carolina. So this is definitely, if you're in the Southeast, this is the place to be. But I also know people have traveled all the way from California to check out Southeast Gassers Association racing at this very event. It is a throwback track. It is a throwback event. Some of the best drag racing reenactors, as I like to call them, will be in attendance. And you also have, who will be in attendance, Josh Owens. The Josh Owens from the Discovery Channel show Moonshiners. Yes, he has a Southeast Gasser Association legal car. He competes in B-Gas. The Carolina Shiner. Fast cars and mason jars, beautiful artwork and name there on this Chevy too. You can see there Moonshiners Discovery, and he will be there racing in an attendance. So some celebrities showing up for the Southeast Gassers Association race there at Shadyside in Shelby, North Carolina. I will be there this weekend. We'll be getting the action and be bringing those championship finals to you on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel, and you can certainly expect the stars of the Southeast Gassers Association to be right here on Between the Slicks, hoping to be able to chat with each and every champion and race winner, and yes, eventually, hopefully have a backup girls show and chat with some backup girls from around various different groups, and you get to know the personalities that are backing up some of these cars. The Haltech World Cup Finals, import versus domestic. Oh wow, I can't say it. Domestic Maryland International Raceway this weekend, November 2nd through the 6th. They actually already had some videos up to date. You can watch it on Flow Racing. This event is one of the most intriguing events in drag racing. Imports versus domestic cars. If it's a door car, show up, run, race, duke it out in the World Cup Finals at Maryland International Raceway. It is on my list to get to this race at some point, but there's so much overlap. There's so much good racing toward the end of the year, and people trying to get everything in. That is coming up this weekend. This weekend for the West Coast, Nitro Revival 5. We had Steve Gibbs on CompetitionPlus.com on Tuesday night, and the Power Hour. He talked about this event. It is a great event. I've seen videos. I have people say, hey, you've got to come. I have people recommend it. It's something else that I want to catch. But if you want to get a taste of what drag racing was like and honor those people from the past, the legends of drag racing, many in present-day legends will be there in attendance and enjoying this Nitro Revival 5 happening at Irwindale Drag Strip. It is certainly a great event to catch. This time of year would be a great time to be in Southern California for like 3 to 4 weeks. So as you've got the California Hot Rod Reunion, you've got Nitro Revival, and then you roll into the NHRA Finals. That is a stellar lineup, weekend after weekend after weekend. If you could take a 3-week vacation to Southern California, I think this would be the time to do it for sure. Well, we had No Mercy 13 wrap up at South Georgia Motorsports Park, and Manny Bagina, he was able to win in Pro 275 and Extreme 275. He doubled up. Those are two different cars, but he doubled up at No Mercy 13 down at South Georgia Motorsports Park. The winners of the NHRA this past weekend for the Nevada Nationals: Brittany Force in Top Fuel, Matt Hagan in Funny Car, Erica Enders in Pro Stock, wrapping up her championship fight. She is the 2022 champion in pro stock for the NHRA Camping World Series. And Hector Arana Jr. gets the win. I even predicted right here on the show that he would be someone to keep your eye out on in the field of pro stock motorcycle, and he certainly proved that you need to keep your eye on him. He goes into Pomona, the finals, looking for a trifecta, a hat trick, getting 3 wins in a row, closing out the season, and definitely making a strong case that he should be out there full time in competition. Brittany Force took the points lead because Justin Ashley went out round 1, setting up a potential of mathematically 5 drivers who still have the chance to go into Pomona and take the championship. It certainly, though, looks like it's going to be a fight between Brittany Force, Justin Ashley, and Mike Salinas. And obviously the top 2 being Brittany Force and Justin Ashley. Going into qualifying, only 7 points separate Justin from Brittany, first and second, respectively. I think Justin Ashley will win the 2022 NHRA Camping World title in Top Fuel. I think it's going to not be a situation of, as many would say, Brittany choking. I think it's going to be a fight, but I think Justin Ashley will edge out Brittany. Granted, as I said, I don't think she's going to choke. She is racing well. I think Grubby's back on track. She had a stellar light in the finals. I think she's up for the challenge, but I think Justin does get his first championship in a young career, and he leaves Pomona as the 2022 champion. In Funny Car, we got a fight between who I think we in Funny Car needed to be. You got the top guys of Funny Car right now: Robert Height, Ron Capps, Matt Hagan. And I personally like it when it's Robert Height and Ron Capps. Like those two, if you remove John Force from the equation, how dare I, but if you remove John Force from the equation, like he doesn't have the championships, he doesn't have the wins, Ron Capps and Robert Height are the top dudes. And have them in a situation where they're duking it out, I think that's great for the class overall and for drag racing. I think Robert Height will come away with the championship at the end of the finals there in Pomona. And this time, I hope that he puts enough nitromethane in the tank and reminds everybody that he's going to do a half-track burnout, and he doesn't shut off and sit in the middle of the track, but he's able to make the run and possibly win the race. But I think Robert will win the championship. And very quickly, Pro Stock Motorcycle, mathematically, there is a chance for others to take the championship, but it seems like it is Matt Smith's all the way going into Pomona, and that he will earn his 6th championship, and it will put him up there, obviously, as one of the greatest of all times to ride on 2 wheels in the NHRA. Very quickly, to wrap up drag news, the McKinney Corp, Murph McKinney, the chassis builder that many of you have heard of for many, many years, McKinney Corp acquires Florida-based Tommy Waters Race Car Products, expanding their lines. One cool thing, and how that definitely connects directly to Between the Slicks, we may in the future have Mr. Murph McKinney himself on the show to chat with him. The World Series of Pro Mod is back. Drag Illustrated announced Wednesday on their live show, the West Buck Show, that the World Series of Pro Mod is back. It will be held at Bradenton Motorsports Park in Florida next year, around March 3rd. Dates are not right here in front of me at the moment, but March 3rd, early in March, before the Gator Nationals, and the drivers will be racing for $100,000. $100,000. And it is an invitation-only race. I believe 40 drivers are going to be invited to this spectacular event that the World Series of Pro Mod will be. I have been to 2 World Door Slammer Nationals that were put on by Drag Illustrated. They were exceptional events. And now this brand revived the World Series of Pro Mod. I can only expect that it will be that much more exceptional than what I experienced and even what they had in the past, and doing it at a facility that I think deserves it with what they have put into that facility and for drag racing as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and right after the break, we're going to get Mr. Chad Green on the show. He's our guest for the night. This word from Destroyer 1320 concerning their theft deterrent systems right now, and then Mr. Chad Green is on the show.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System, TDS, and steal the thieves' hope.
Chad Green, man, welcome to the show, Between the Slicks. Good to have you on, man.
Thank you, Lee. Good to be here.
Well, I know I've been saying for a while, come on the show, come on the show. We had your son on earlier in the year. It seems like it was ages ago, but it wasn't that long ago. It was around there at Phoenix after he was able to license. And, wow, he's been able to get into a few NHRA races in A-Fuel. What has it been like seeing your boy behind the wheel of a Randy Meyer dragster and doing so well?
That's been pretty cool, Lee. Let me tell you, watching him is better than me racing myself. So yeah, it's been an awesome process to watch. I've been really proud of him. He's doing really well, and I'm looking forward to the future, see what comes of it.
Hey, a real celebrity just chimed in. Rob Flynn. That Rob Flynn says hello to me and yourself, Chad. So, Rob, look, you got a chance to win a championship. Go out there and do it, man.
Good luck, Rob.
He's doing good things over there with Mike Salinas for sure. It's been good to watch. But I think there's been some good things for Chad Green Motorsports this year. I know you haven't pulled the Pro Mod out, but attempted the full pull this year, -1 race. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But where the program is right now and overall, what are your thoughts on the season thus far, Chad?
Well, overall, I think the program's in pretty good shape. My thoughts on the season, I think it's went better than expected, maybe. I have high expectations, but overall, it's been pretty good. We came out really good in the first few races. We had a couple of semifinal finishes, and we ended up getting a new car. So we pulled a new car out. It was in Charlotte after we went to the semifinals in Houston, and we struggled with that car for all the way up until Indy. With gremlins in it, this and that, we just stuck with it, trying to fix it. And that was kind of a lull in our season. At Indy, we decided to bring the old car back out, and it seemed to get us back on track. And in that process, after that, we fixed the new car. So actually, the last couple races, we've had it back out now, and we're feeling good.
Man, is it not strange how you bring a new car out and it does something completely different than the old car? You go back to the old car, and you mentioned fix. Like, where did y'all have to go look with the new car? Was it chassis or was it hardware on the chassis? Where were y'all having to go look to tweak things?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the chassis. That's perfect. That's all good. It's a Murph McKinney chassis, by the way. But yeah, it was something, all along we replaced so many things on the car, so many parts, trying to figure it out. And in the end, don't even get me to tell you what it was, because they told me, but I don't know what it was. But they finally figured it out. Thank goodness. But these are things you always have with new cars. Not always. Sometimes you get a new car and it's just great, but it's a common thing. But I felt like we stuck with it a little too long, but in the end of the day, these cars aren't going to fix themselves. You can't just go test a nitro car on the weekend. So we put it up, and then we figured out the problem, brought it back out. So I think we're on track now.
All right, good to hear. Well, look, we'll come back to the season and talk about some particulars in a few moments. Let's bring folks up to speed. Maybe they're not that familiar with Chad Green. I know you come from the Pro Mod ranks, but maybe the average NHRA fan wasn't watching Pro Mod, and then they see this guy Chad Green stepping into a Tim Wilkerson tuned funny car. Where does drag racing for Chad begin? How do you get involved, and how do you progress to the point where you're behind the wheel of a Pro Mod and then behind the wheel of a nitro burning funny car?
Well, drag racing for me began, early in life, in my, I'd say early 20s. Growing up, I was always a big fan of racing, any type of racing. When I was a young kid, BMX, motocross racing. My family was not into drag racing, so I didn't grow up into drag racing. But as a young man, in my very early 20s, I went to my first NHRA drag race, and I mean, it hooked me at that point. After that, I said, at some point, I'm going to have a drag race car, and I'm going to race in the NHRA. At that point, I didn't know what category, I didn't know anything. That was just my goal. Uh, I had a business at the time. I started my family young. I had a young family growing. So at the time, I really didn't have the time nor the money to afford to get into drag racing. So it took me a little time. It was a little later on in my life, towards my late 30s. I decided, it's a time now. I have the time. I can afford it. I'm at the spot of my life. So I had a plan in motion, when I wanted to get started drag racing. And for a lot of people out there that do want to get started drag racing, my initial plan was I was going to go to Frank Hawley's drag racing school. So, that's what I did when I got ready to drag race. I went to Frank Hawley's and, progressed from there. I ended up going back to Frank Hawley's, going to the nostalgia funny car class, alcohol funny car class, and all the time, looking for a car to buy to get started drag racing. And I bought this car. It was really a sportsman type car. It was a 63 Corvette, and I got started with that car, and it was a nitrous car. So that's how I initially got hooked up with Pat Busey. Got my first motor from him and got started with him. And, we went through the process of that, and racing in the PDRA a little bit, and around in some Texas races wherever I could. At the time, I still could commit full time, so I just race where I could, and I also wanted to be a little bit incognito, not just get out there until I got more experience under my belt, really knew what I was doing. So things progressed, and few years later, we decided just to go ahead and move to the NHRA. Pat came to me, was interested in working with me to be my crew chief, and I thought that was just great to have that opportunity. And he brought Dee Baritas on with him at the time for my first year, which I didn't know Dee at the time, and Dee's just ended up being a blessing. I mean, he's one of my best buds, and he's ride or die type of guy. So that got me started in NHRA Pro Mod racing, and it just evolved from there. I met people. I already had my alcohol funny car license. I never had any thought in my mind that I would be driving a nitro funny car one day, but I love funny cars. I've always loved funny cars. It's been one of those things. So it evolved. I met people, met John Force. He introduced me to Tim, and I was able to get my license. It was back in, I think, 2017. I actually got my funny car license, and I was racing Pro Mod at the time. And for a few years, I went back every year to the spring testing in Arizona, and I would drive Tim's funny car for a couple days to keep my license and to keep up, to advance, get more experience with the funny car, you know, driving a funny car with the hopes of one day, something might happen that I might actually be able to drive one of these. And it just developed into it. It's one of those things I feel very fortunate.
Speaking of the Pro Mod and the funny car, I'm sure there's similarities, but I'm sure they're vastly different. What does it take to drive both of them? They're both hairy machines. You've had some nasty moments in a Pro Mod, like the crazy backflip, in the air at Indy and a few other incidences. So what are the challenges to each of them, and what do you like about both of them? I know you hadn't pulled the Pro Mod out, far as I know, this year, but I know you still got it, and I'm sure you still want to bring it out if you get the opportunity. So the differences, the likes, the things that just scare you to death about them, whatever.
Well, that's a good question right there, Lee. Let me tell you. Yeah, I still have two Pro Mods and all my stuff, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the day to be able to drive one of them again. I've been focused on this funny car, and we remain focused on it. We want to be a real contender in the funny car category. That's our goal right now, and it's hard to do two different things. But I do have my Pro Mods, and I look forward to driving again. I tell you this. Thing coming about the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, that really got my attention because I've been setting one of my Pro Mods up for 8th mile drag races. So I don't know what to see about that. But anyway, the differences are actually so different. Let me tell you. They're both crazy as hell, and I think they're both the two most difficult drag race cars to drive for sure. But they're so different. A good way I like to think about it is the funny car's harder to drive, but a Pro Mod is definitely easier to crash. That's for sure. And you drive a Pro Mod like you're driving on ice, basically. You can't overcorrect very much, or you're going to crash. That's just the way it is. And with a funny car, it's basically the opposite difference. I mean, if it starts going towards the cones or the wall, you're cranking on that wheel as hard as you can just to try to get it to stop its momentum, which is hard to do. I mean, you're turning as hard as you can, and you're just slowing it down, it seems like. If you used to do that in a door car, any door car, you would crash. So I mean, it took a little bit, making runs for that to get in my subconscious because those cars are so fast. I mean, your subconscious and your instinct has to be able to take over to control those cars. So it took a little bit to transition from the not wanting to overcorrect to you have to really be in front of these cars. You can't get by them at all.
All right, so Darrell Craft, he asks, what is Bondcoat? Because I hear people ask that all the time, and it is obviously on the car. You're wearing it tonight. People see Bondcoat everywhere, and it's on your son's ride in A Fuel. So Bondcoat, your company, what the heck is it?
Okay, that's a very good question, and it's a very unique, niche business. We're stationed out here in the oil field of West Texas, the Permian Basin, Midland, Odessa, and basically, Bondcoat is a coating that goes on the exterior of oil field tubulars that go downhole, and it's put on there to prevent corrosion. So, when they drill an oil well out here in the Permian Basin, West Texas, it's not everywhere. It's area specific, but they can have these big aquifers in the ground that the casing has to run through. That's 2,000 or 3,000 foot deep. So our coating is put on there to protect the casing. So it's basically like salt water doesn't eat through it and then get water to the wellbore.
There you go, folks. That is what Bondcoat is. Now, you said that it's not for every area, so I'm curious. obviously you're servicing out there in West Texas where there is nothing but oil and dust, it seems like. Where else do you service? Like, what other parts of the world are purchasing your product?
Right. So we service here the Permian Basin, which is one of the only areas we service in America. But they also have this problem, pretty widespread across the Middle East. So we have three different plants in the Middle East: one in Oman, one in uh, Qatar, Doha, and the other in Saudi Arabia.
So again, let's stick with this Bondcoat thing so people can understand it a little bit better. Are we talking something like a paint, or is this like a ceramic coating, or where are we going with what you're coating it with and how it reacts or repels the environment?
Well, our coating is actually a reinforced epoxy coating. So it's reinforced with the flint material, which is the same type of flint like the Indians used to make arrowheads, for example. It's a really tough but non-porous, rock. We have little pebbles of this that reinforces the epoxy coating, and what it does is it makes the coating extremely tough. So there's lots of coatings you can put on the pipe that would protect this product in the environment. The real key and the key to our success as a company is having a coating that's tough enough that you can put on the pipe and it'll still be there after it makes a trip downhole.
Impressive, and I'm sure it is a far bigger business when people realize what even I realize. Again, oil affects our lives everywhere. It always fascinates me, and I'm sure with your involvement in it, when environmentalists are so gung ho about like getting rid of oil everything, I think to myself, well, guys, oil is like everywhere. It's not just in your car. It's in our plastics. It's in our cell phones. It's in our clothing. Oil is everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much makes the world go round.
It does. It does. Speaking of your car, Bondcoat, this year we were able to see a few different schemes. So the classic black funny car looks good, by the way, and got Summit on the side there, rocking that one for a good part of the year. And Chad, now I definitely do like this one. This one was a good look with the silver or gray, if you will, the black and the red, Boxo as well. So talk to me about this scheme and Boxo and your partnership with them.
So yeah, we've been a partner now with Boxa for a couple of years. If you look, they're actually on all our cars. It's been a good partnership. They're a tool company. They've got awesome tools, and they're a new company, a growing company. So they're growing like we're growing, and we're growing together. But so far, so good. It's been a really great partnership.
And this year, I do not recall the road race exactly. You may very well, but I think it was Tony's BP's was on the car. That's a good looking hot rod with the black and the BP and the green and yellow and everything. I like that, Chad.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We were excited about that. That was something that kind of came up at the last minute. Tony's BP, that was in Brainerd, and Tony, he actually owns a bunch of BP stations all across Minnesota there. So yeah, we got introduced to him through Tim, and he wanted to do something for the race. So we was happy to do that for him, and I think it's going to continue on. I think we're going to do it again next year.
Oh, very cool. Good to hear that partnership may very well continue on into next year. I hope that will grow and advance for you. And your company is on the side most of the time. And I'm sure that obviously marketing, but why do you have your company on the side of the car so often? I know, I asked Buddy Hull that question with Vertex, like, why do you do it? And he's like, well, one of the reasons is it adds some validation compared to other companies when we're out there competing against other roofing companies. So for you, why is Bondcoat on that car? What is the ROI if you're actually seeing anything through NHRA drag racing?
Well, for me, I mean, basically, Bondcoat's my company, and for the most part, at HRA, I'm self-funded at this point. So, self-funding myself, I'm going to promote my own company as much as I can. Our product isn't something that's a type of product to where some NHRA fan is going to see it and say, "Oh, I want that." We understand that, but it does help us in our local market, our local community. Companies know that there's an NHRA drag racer. He owns this company. All that type of stuff helps, but in the end, we're working towards goals of working with other companies as well. And my goal isn't just to have my name on the car. I'm just doing that because at this point I'm self-funding most of it. But we're in the process of working on some deals, looking for deals, to make this thing grow bigger. I'd be happy to put another company on the side of my car.
Well, that'd be cool. And it looks cool also with Bondcoat on it. But
Definitely.
it's interesting to hear the behind the scenes of why a name is on the car. I know a lot of companies, they have their name on the car because they actually want the hospitality side of things. They're not actually concerned about TV exposure. Then some are concerned about TV exposure. So there's a lot of different reasons for companies participating within motorsports or marketing wherever they may be. Talking about it participating, this year, the rules were situated in such a way, again, as they were in 2020 and 2021, that if you qualified and made the runs at every race, you were automatically qualified for the countdown. And if I recall correctly, one race, Epping, that Chad Green Motorsports was not at, and it set up a fight situation between yourself and Blake Alexander to crack into that top 10. Why was Epping not on the list?
Well, actually, Lee, you're wrong. You're wrong. I got to correct you there.
Okay.
We actually missed three. It was Epping and Seattle and Sonoma. And basically, the reason for that was I wanted to go to all the races, but we started out last year. We went to 8 races, and we was developing this program. We wasn't for sure what we was going to do this year. We was initially talking about 12 to 15 races this year. Then towards the end of the year, I decided, I told Tim, no, I'm ready to go all in on this thing, and basically, we had to make the decision to miss those 3 races because of a parts issue. We're so behind late in the game. With these cars, they consume so many parts. You basically have to be a year almost in advance ordering some of these parts. And, Tim was like, all of a sudden, to his suppliers, oh, I need double that. They're like, whoa, hold on a second. So, there's only a few particular things, but we was concerned about it. We definitely wanted to be able to make the last 6 races in the countdown. So we made the decision early in the year that we was going to have to miss 3 races, we thought. So we picked out the races that were, the most beneficial for us to miss. And unfortunately, that had to happen. I wasn't happy about it. I was begging the whole time that whatever we could, let's try and make these races. And it came down to the wire there, and we lost by a few points. But hey, that's the way it goes. Look at this as a warm-up year, and next year we're definitely going to make all the races, and we'll be in there for the fight.
All right, so yes, missing 3, and look, parts were hard to come by. It's been tough for everybody.
Yes,
I know.
Yes.
Whether it was talking to Doug Foley, Buddy Hull, and many other teams, parts were very challenging to come by, not just for Nitro, but all the way down to the bracket racer. It's just that's where it's at right now in this economy that we're in. So,
especially for the part-time racers, the full-time guys, they got their supply chain going. Now we're in that position. We're in the mix now, but coming into the end of last year, we wasn't in the mix, and Tim did a great job getting us all the parts that we've had, because we have not raced on junk stuff this year. We're racing on good stuff. The same stuff he races on, and try to be competitive.
Now, going into Indy, round 1, that was a big matchup. It's Blake Alexander can crack his way in. Chad Green, you were already in, so you're kind of fighting to stay in. And, I've had people chime in. They feel like that the NHRA didn't play that up enough. I'm curious, from your perspective, did the NHRA play that moment up enough between you and Blake? Or you think a little bit more could have been done?
I mean, from my perspective, I think they played it up enough, but I don't know. I'm not a fan looking from the outside in. I'm looking from my. I'm just thinking about me and me doing what I need to do. And let me tell you, I thought it was a pretty awesome actually the way it unfolded against me having to go against Blake and Indy. And hats off to that team. You know, we knew it was going to be tough, and when they make a good run, you know, when they make an A to B run, it's always it's a tough. They're going to be tough to beat. You know, we gave it our best, and that's the way it ended up.
It did. It ended up, and you've had some interesting moments since then because I think when you go head to head against Tim, people don't know how to put that into focus.
Yeah.
They're not sure what's going on. Sometimes you will hear people say teammate, yet I don't think teammate really describes the relationship or the situation best. It may be best to, throw that tack on that, that prefix of quasi teammate because y'all have raced heads up each and every time. And, you got the round one win there in Las Vegas. And sometimes it's gone his way, sometimes it's gone your way, even when it could have been beneficial towards Tim or towards you in certain circumstances. So how do you all, Tim Wilkerson's race outfit and the Chad Green Motorsports outfit, look at that teammate, quasi-teammate partnership situation?
Well, you know, it's really Lee. It's no different than a lot of these teams. You know, we're not the only team out there with other teammates. You know, look at John Force and John Force and Robert Hyde or Brittany against Austin Prock. None of them are going to give up against the other one. You know, we're all teammates. We're all for each other until we got to go against each other. You know, in that moment, it's we're going for ourselves, and past that we're going to root our teammates on. But in the end, it's racing, and we're not going to lay down.
So, Tim, as the year winds down, we got one more race left rolling into 2023. And certainly, I think you'll be back out there in NHRA Funny Car competition. Hopefully, you get that invitation of that Pro Mod race down there in Bradenton for $100,000. That could definitely help fund a funny car. But what is it going to take for Chad Green to lift that Wally up at the end of the day in funny car? Is it dipping into the 380s more often? Is it a little bit of an upgrade in parts somewhere? Or do you feel like even right now the team is capable of getting that job done?
I think we are, Lee. I think we're right on the verge of that. I mean, we're getting better. Like I said, we struggle with gremlins in our car a lot of this year, but we made our first run of the 380s in Charlotte. We're creeping up on it. We've got all the best parts. We feel like there's not a parts issue. We've got Daniel's done a great job this year, and we've got Tim, helping him out, looking over everything. And we know the capabilities of Tim and what he can do with his car. So, I feel like I've done a good job developing as a driver. There's not really anything I'm doing to hinder the situation. So I think we're right at that point. Give us a little luck and let us grow a little bit more as a team. We had a brand new team. We had a bunch of new guys this year. We had guys on our team that's never even been on a drag racing team before. So I feel like we've really developed well as a team this year, and we're really coming on. I'm feeling really comfortable driving the car. We're starting to, now that we've got our gremlins worked out, we can start actually getting aggressive with it, and that's where we're at. We look forward to it next year. I think we're going to give them hell.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you were out there 2 years ago and, got the feet wet. You've been out here, you said just the 3 races. I mean, basically almost a full pull. I mean, that's a lot of races. And, you've had those semifinal appearances. You've had round wins. You've been able to pedal the car and be in those situations. So, yeah, I think your team, Chad Green Motorsports, and that funny car operation is primed to have a good day. It's just, when is it going to happen? And I think it's sooner than later at this side at the end of 2022. When Can we expect a second funny car with dear old son in it and possibly whipping up on dad, or is he going to stay in the dragster? What's going on there?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see about that. He likes the dragsters. He'd like to move up to the top fuel dragster rank, but you know, I I'm not going to fund it. So we're working on getting him experience and working on getting some sponsors for B, to start with, and also work for him also. So yeah, as soon as possible, we'd like to see him out there racing too.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. It'd be very cool. He definitely made a great progression from when I first saw him in the top fueler and didn't know it was him to licensing and now doing well in a fuel behind a Randy Meyer machine. He's definitely doing a good job. So you're out there in West Texas. I've been through West Texas a couple times, and I was out there covering the Funny Car Chaos race at Odessa. I actually saw you out there in attendance enjoying Funny Car Chaos. What a wild event that was. Yeah, what does Chad Green do for fun out there? There's not much, man. I mean, it can't be work all the time.
No, I mean there's not much here. I mean, basically, I love Texas, but this isn't my favorite place in Texas to be, obviously. But this is where I work and make my living. And yeah, what I do for fun is I go race on the weekends somewhere else.
Get out of West Texas, go race somewhere else.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, talking about that first win in Funny Car, if you could write the perfect script for that win, what would it look like? Would it be, beat John Force round one, meet Tim Wilkerson in the final round and beat him? Or, what would that day look like for Chad Green and winning?
Oh man, I don't know. That's kind of hard to say, but I don't really care what it looked like. I mean, a win's a win. You know, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, it'd be kind of hard to top my first win in Pro Mod. I broke my back in Indy, crashing at the U.S. Nationals in 2019, and I came back and actually won. I won at Indy the U.S. Nationals in not the U.S. Nationals, but I won at the U.S. Nationals in 2020. But it's from the makeup race from the race before we had in Indy. But it ended up being, 1 year to the date from when I crashed and broke my back at the same track. That was pretty memorable for me. But I mean, any win in a nitro fuel car would, just top it all. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are.
All right. I'm kind of hoping for a, Tim Chad Green matchup.
Oh, that would be pretty cool, but it'd be pretty cool to beat John Force too.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I can only imagine. I mean, on this side of the world in motorsports, interviewing John is top, and I've had the privilege, the honor, the pleasure to do that a couple of times, and I'm sure racing John as a funny car driver, it's like, it doesn't matter where he's qualified. It doesn't matter how he's doing. It's just like, that's John Force, and I get the opportunity to race against the greatest of all time, and that's just darn cool.
You're exactly right, Lee. Let me tell you that. I mean, if I could pick anybody at any time to go up there and line up against, it would be John Force. And I've only had the chance to line up against him so far in eliminations a couple times, but for me, it's been memorable. And I mean, a lot of people don't. Most people don't know this, but it's a, kind of a behind the scenes story. But I would not be driving Funny Car right now if it wasn't for John Force. I mean, he's the guy that got me hooked up in the Funny Car. So, yeah, props to him.
Well, thank you, John Force, for another one and getting Chad Green in a funny car. Look, I'm going to put this as the last question. You obviously have a growing social media platform. Your son and others have been doing a great job there. You got over 100,000 followers on Instagram and several tens of thousands of followers on Facebook. And with that, I'm sure has come some interesting and new fan interactions going around the nation and racing. So what have been some cool fan interactions that you've had as people are getting more familiar with Chad Green and the funny car?
Well, I guess the coolest thing is really getting to see how many of these fans that are out there really travel around to the different racetracks and follow the drivers, I mean, they're not just fans, occasional fans. You see them at multiple racetracks, traveling around the country, and I just think that's awesome. I think the NHRA fans are the best there is. Uh, it's been a really great experience. It's still kind of surreal to me because I'm still the guy. Even now in the pits, I can sit out on my golf cart in front of my pit and just sit there and watch the people. And a lot of people will recognize me. They'll have people come up and say, "Is Chad Green here?" Yeah, right here. So it's kind of cool. The whole experience is cool, and I'm enjoying it.
Chad, just wear big shades, Chad. People.
Yeah, definitely. One of these days, I won't be able to do that.
Yeah, right. You won't be able to do that for sure. And yes, I agree with you. I used to go to one national event a year, Southern Nationals, Commerce, Georgia, there at Atlanta Dragway. May it rest in peace. But after I started traveling for what I'm doing in motorsports, I was fascinated just as you with. I saw this guy in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in Pomona. Oh, he's in Epping. Like all over the nation as a fan, taking their vacation time to go experience more NHRA drag racing. It is. I'm like, what job do you got?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when I see the same fans over and over at different races, and I remember from before, and yeah, it's a cool deal. Meeting some cool people.
For sure, definitely. So, Chad, I'll give you floor for whatever you want to say here at the end of the show. Anyone you want to thank, anyone you want to brag on, anyone you want to call out, it's yours, man.
Well, thank you, Lee, for having me here. I mean, it's been a cool experience. I'm really looking forward to next year to see what the future holds. We got a lot of things in the works right now, a lot of things with Wilkerson in the works. I'm really excited about what's going on there. I can't thank the Wilkersons, Tim, Daniel, their whole family enough. I definitely could not be doing this without them. Uh, so yeah, that's all great. We're so excited about next year. We're so excited about Hunter and his future. It's to see what that holds, and yeah, we're gonna give him hell.
Well, Chad, look, thank you. I know it was short notice. I was joggling who to get on, had cancellations, so I appreciate you stepping in and been wanting to have this conversation for a while, and definitely look forward to having another conversation with you right here on this show, and hopefully it's after a win.
Anytime, Lee. Just let me know.
Thank you, Chad. Have a good evening.
All right, you too, buddy.
All right, Chad Green, ladies and gentlemen, the funny car racer for his own motorsports program, Chad Green Motorsports, there in the Bondcoat funny car. Tim Wilkerson does the tuning duties on it. So good to have Chad. Chad's an interesting character out there. You can definitely tell he's from West Texas, and he's got a successful business out there living the American dream. And that's something about drag racing I feel is still a reality. And it's something that even Tony Stewart has said and made remarks on. We've gotten to a point in other forms of motorsport that if you didn't start driving that kind of vehicle at 5 years of age, and if you don't have serious backing monetarily wise from a family or early partners, then you are not going to make it, more than likely. The chances are nil to none. But that's not the case with drag racing. In drag racing, the blue-collar guy that is savvy, that works hard, becomes an entrepreneur, and is successful in business, he can still go out there and do it on his own at many different levels of drag racing. I think of Tommy Franklin, owns an electrical business. He's out there with a pro mod and owns a drag racing facility in Virginia Motorsports Park and has another business. You got who we just had, Chad Green and Bondcoat and his company, and it being successful and what it's doing, able to fund a fuel funny car program Buddy Hull, he just chimed in. Yes, Chad, great guy and a great racer. And another example, you've got someone that has worked extremely hard, has a successful business, and they've rolled that in to their own drag racing program. Drag racing. I have to agree with Wes Buck when it's like the great American motorsport. I have to agree. It truly is where you can live out the American dream. And you can live it out in such a diverse form of racing. There are guys who have no interest in racing a nitro fuel funny car or top fuel dragster, but they very well might have interest in having a beautiful gasser like the Southeast Gassers Association, or they might be successful of their tier of success, and they might not be able to go run NHRA, but they can go run a funny car chaos and be a funny car driver and have a championship, just like a Kirk Williams, who, by the way, who has won NHRA championships in the regional level and national event wins as well. But you can still get it done in drag racing. Another cool thing is you don't have to start at 5 years of age to make it to the big times. Look how young the age has become in other motorsports. I feel for these young drivers in NASCAR. They're getting a shot at 18, 19, 20 years of age in like trucks and Xfinity. And if they don't make good on that shot within 2 or 3 years, they are washed up. Or you have someone who does extremely well because they were in such a good ride, they get to the cup level and they're used up before they're even 30. When it used to be, it wasn't until you were 30 that you were getting a shot at cup. Not to say that there's anything bad with youth, but it's being used, I think, in many other motorsports in the wrong way. Drag racing, you can be old and still go out there and win. Look at John Force. He can still go out there and win. He is a threat to win. And you can come into drag racing, theoretically not be in the prime of your life, and be competitive. And you don't see that elsewhere right now in motorsports. Granted, I still think if Mark Martin jumped in a car, he'd probably wax the whole field today. But that's not how it's being marketed and working out. Drag racing, pretty cool place to be in the world of motorsports. I hope it continues to grow. I hope it continues to thrive. I think it is growing. I think it is thriving. We've got partnerships such as In-N-Out Burger in Southern California with the Fairplex drag strip naming rights and title sponsor of the event for the finals. Maybe they'll even go ahead and sponsor the Winter Nationals. Who knows? That is great to see. And that opens up a door. If you have a fast food restaurant sponsoring that event, we had the Arby's Southern Nationals, 2-3 years ago. What else could we see partnership-wise with fast food companies and such? You never know what may very well happen. I know this. Drag racing is alive and well. It's certainly not dead. To each and every one of you, thank you for watching. I'm Lee Kraft, the Monday Morning Racer, right here on the Monday Morning Racer platform. We are also streaming the CompetitionPlus.com Facebook page. Good to have each and every audience along. If you would, go by to the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. It is free, and you'll be seeing great drag racing content and even more from the world of motorsports right there. And I thank you all for watching. Rob Flynn chimes in, says, good show, Lee. Thank you, Rob. You're doing a good job. And nobody thought that you would be doing that good job. And you've shocked everybody, along with Mike Salinas. And I like it. So keep up the good work, man. And we'll have to have you back on, maybe with your son at the same time. That might be an interesting episode. But thank you all for watching Between the Slicks here. Thank you again, Chad Green, for coming on and chatting and doing so in such a short notice. This weekend, I am at the Southeast Gassers Association final race at Shadyside Dragway there in Shelby, North Carolina. If you're there, hey, come by and say hello when I'm not filming. And we'll definitely have to chat it up about drag racing at Shadyside. Thank you, Mr. Kraft, from Mr. Kraft. I appreciate that. Everyone, have a good night. Until next time, God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal.
Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean.